Imagine this. You're working the night shift at a small factory on the edge of a rice field in Thailand. It's quiet, too quiet. Most of your co-workers have clocked out. The machines are off. Only the hum of the fluorescent lights and the buzz of insects outside keep you company. You're bored, scrolling your phone at the security desk, watching the CCTV monitors out of the corner of your eye. Row after row of silent images. The front gate, the loading bay, the long dirt road that leads past the ponds and into the village. Nothing ever happens. Until one night in 2017, something does. Something you still don't have words for. Something that parts of Thailand call Krasue. Before we get to that factory, we need to talk about what a Krasue is. If you grew up in Thailand, Cambodia, or Laos, you probably already know. If you didn't, this is the nightmare. At night, usually after midnight, a woman's head detaches from her body, just the head, dragging a tangle of glowing, dripping organs behind it. Heart, lungs, intestines, still connected and trailing like roots. It floats through the air, searching for blood, for fetuses, for raw meat, for anything wet and warm. Sometimes it hovers outside windows. Sometimes it feeds on livestock, chickens, pigs. Sometimes, villagers say, it goes to the hospital to drink the blood of the dying. By dawn, the Krasue must return to its hidden body, usually kept in a house, a shed, or the forest. If someone moves or destroys the body before the head returns, the spirit is trapped. It becomes something worse. For most people, Krasue is just a ghost story. Something your grandmother used to scare you into coming home before dark. But in certain parts of rural Thailand, especially in the northeast, sightings are still reported. Lights in the rice fields that aren't lanterns. Head-shaped shadows drifting above the ground. Animals found dead, throats torn open, organs missing. Most of these stories never leave the village. One did, because there was CCTV. Our story takes place in Chachoengsao, a province east of Bangkok, not too far from the city, but rural enough that the factories sit beside rice fields and fish ponds. People there still talk about spirits. In late 2017, there was a small food processing factory on the edge of one such village. It wasn't famous. It didn't make the news often. It produced dried seafood and snacks, employing locals from the nearby houses. The factory had a front gate, a narrow dirt road, and a strip of rice fields at the back. Like most places, it also had a CCTV system. 8 cameras, low resolution, black and white at night. One of those cameras faced the back fence and the dark open space beyond. That's where it started. The security guard on duty that night, we'll call him Somchai, had done this shift hundreds of times. He knew the village. He knew the workers. He knew that on most nights, his biggest enemy was sleep. Around 2:15 a.m., the factory was completely quiet. The last truck had left hours earlier. The lights in the processing hall were off. Only the security office and a few dim exterior lamps were still on. Somchai sat in his small room, drinking instant coffee, phone in hand. The CCTV monitors flickered softly in front of him. Nothing, just grainy images of nothing. Then, in the corner of his eye, he saw movement. Camera 7, the one facing the rice field. At first, he thought it was just a moth close to the lens, a white blur. He glanced up properly. The thing on the screen wasn't a moth. It was round, glowing softly, like a floating lantern, and it was moving horizontally, not up or down like an insect. He leaned closer. On the screen, the light drifted from left to right above the dark field, just above the height of a person's shoulders, but there was no body, no legs, only a bright shape. He tapped the monitor, thinking it might be a glitch. The shape kept moving. He switched all the feeds to the large main monitor and rewound a few seconds. There it was again, coming from the direction of the village houses, crossing the edge of the rice field, heading toward the factory fence. Just a glowing, head-sized object with something trailing below it, swaying like fabric or something else. Somchai's first thought wasn't Krasue. It was, someone is flying a drone, except there was no sound, no whir of propellers, and drones don't usually bleed. On the CCTV footage, what little has leaked online, you can see it if you look closely. The shape isn't perfectly round. It's more like an oval, like a head bowed forward, and below it, thin dark lines trail downward, swaying as it moves like chords or organs. The glow is uneven. There's a faint pulsing to it. Somchai stared, heart starting to race. He zoomed the camera in as much as the cheap system would allow. The resolution broke into blocks of gray and white, but the feeling in his chest told him enough. This wasn't a drone. This wasn't a person with a light. Whatever it was floating, and it was getting closer. Somchai did what most of us would do. He grabbed his phone and started recording the monitor. His hands were shaking, so the video is jittery, full of reflections and glare. You can hear his breathing in the audio, a soft, panicked rhythm. On the screen, the glowing shape moves along the fence line. It pauses near a small hut just outside the factory, an old storage shed that the workers sometimes use to rest during the day. Then it rises slightly, as if sniffing the air. In the grainy video, you can just make out something like hair, long and dark, hanging down. Hair, with nothing attached. Below that, thinner lines, dripping with something that doesn't reflect light the way metal would. One of the online commenters, who later examined the video, claimed you could see intestines. Others insisted it was just compression artifacts. What Somchai remembers is simpler. He remembers feeling like someone was staring directly through the camera, straight into the security room. He remembers the sudden metallic smell that filled the air around him, like old blood. And he remembers that for the first time in 10 years on that job, he seriously considered running. Instead, he called one of the senior workers who lived closest to the factory, a man in his 50s named Uncle Lek. "Come to the gate," he said. "Now." When Lek arrived a few minutes later on his motorcycle, Somchai was outside, pale, sweating, clutching his phone. He didn't explain. He just pointed at the back of the factory. By then, the glowing shape had moved closer to the building itself. Both men stood in the darkness beside the loading bay, staring out toward the faint line of trees and the field beyond. At first, they saw nothing. Then, above the bushes, something pale rose slowly into view. Lek would later describe it like this. It was like a woman's head, but wrong. The face was turned slightly down, so I couldn't see it clearly, only the chin and hair. Underneath, I thought it was cloth hanging. Then I realized cloth doesn't shine like that, and cloth doesn't drip. He swore there was no body, just a head, and something like ropes or roots hanging below it, wet and swinging. No sound of wings, no sound of a drone, only the distant croak of frogs and the buzzing of insects. Both men froze. The thing hovered for a few seconds, turning slowly as if scanning the area. Then, just as suddenly, it drifted away. back over the rice field, shrinking into the dark. They watched it until it vanished. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The next morning, word spread in the village. Not that the men had seen something. Villagers are used to something. What made this different was the CCTV. Clips were passed from phone to phone, from line group to line group. Eventually, they leaked onto Thai Facebook pages and YouTube channels that specialize in ghost videos. Some viewers laughed it off as a hoax. They pointed out the low resolution, the reflections, the fact that Somchai had filmed the monitor instead of exporting the footage. Others took it as proof, not just of the Krasue, but of many things. That the land was angry, that someone in the village had been cursed, that a woman had died badly nearby. One story circulated that a woman in the village had secretly aborted a pregnancy and thrown the remains into the pond. Another said there had been a car accident on the road by the field years earlier, a pregnant woman dying before making it to the hospital. None of these rumors were ever confirmed, but they spread fast, faster than the video. What did happen, according to multiple workers at the factory, was this. For weeks after the incident, the night shift became impossible to fill. Workers refused to stay alone after midnight. Some insisted that the lights at the back of the building flickered when they walked past. Others claimed they saw a floating light in the distance while cycling home. One woman swore she woke up to find something wet on her window, as if something had smeared blood in a long curve across the glass. Chickens in one nearby house were found one morning with their throats ripped out, bodies left uneaten except for their organs. The owner blamed dogs. His grandmother blamed the Krasue. Somchai himself quit the job within a month. He told a relative, "It's not just what I saw. It's the feeling that it saw me, like it remembered my face." The factory eventually installed brighter floodlights at the back and pointed additional cameras toward the field. There were no more clear sightings, but late-night workers still kept a habit. If they had to walk near the back fence after midnight, they muttered a quick apology to the air. "Sorry if we disturbed you. Just passing through." So, was this a real Krasue? Or a mix of low-quality cameras, insects, and fear? The footage is low resolution, filmed off a monitor, easy to fake. There are no multiple angles, clearly showing the same object. Insects close to a lens can look huge and glowing. Reflections from passing motorbikes or distant houses can create floating lights. They say the human brain is excellent at seeing faces where there are none. Once someone says, "Krasue," every blob becomes a head and every streak becomes organs. On the other hand, believers argue. Both Somchai and Lek saw the shape with their naked eyes, not just on camera. The movement described, slow, horizontal, floating above the field, is hard to explain with insects or car lights. The detailed local stories of chickens, killed, strange smells, and other sightings fit a very old pattern of Krasue accounts across Thailand and Laos. They say that in rural places, where the line between the living and the dead feels thinner, cameras sometimes catch what our eyes were never meant to see. Maybe the truth is somewhere in between. Maybe the video is just a trigger, a piece of ubiquitous evidence that villagers wrapped an older fear around. Or maybe the Krasue has simply adapted to the 21st century, no longer just drifting around bamboo houses and dirt paths, but now gliding past CCTV cameras and factory walls, half seen in glitchy pixels and compression noise. What makes stories like this powerful isn't just the ghost itself. It's what they say about the places we work and live. Factories built on former rice fields. Villages pressed up against industrial estates. Spirits of older beliefs swirling in the floodlights and security cameras of modern Thailand. For the people of that village, the question wasn't, is this scientifically proven? It was, do I feel safe walking past that field alone at night? For many of them, the answer, for a long time, was no. So what do you think? Was the glowing shape on the Chachongsao factory cameras a real Krasue? A clever hoax? A trick of light and insects made monstrous by fear? Have you ever seen videos of Krasue or similar ghosts from Thailand, Cambodia, or Laos? Would you be willing to work the night shift, alone, in a factory beside a rice field, knowing that somewhere out there, something might be floating just above the ground, looking for blood? Let us know your thoughts and your stories in the comments. And if you want more true and true-inspired ghost stories from across Asia, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.